Hello, everyone. This is Ig Arthur, or E.G. Arthur, if you prefer, and this is my Spring Festival 10 Quest daily run. And I call it the less sweaty version of a festival daily run because for Spring Festival, my usual approach of trying to min-max everything and put together a run that completes in the least amount of time, according to all of my testing and analysis. Well, Spring Festival kind of resists that kind of approach. And the way in which it resists it is that the Shrew-stomping quest is one of the most playtime efficient that there is. Once you start stomping your first shrew to the time you stop stomping your last shrew, can be less than a minute. Well, it's variable somewhat depending on how much competition you have for stomping the shrews, but if you're alone, it can be less than a minute. So that makes it among the most efficient quests that you can do for the 10 quest daily. So it's pretty much irresistible to do that quest. And also there are other quests that are relatively efficient that are also in the garden, in the same place that you do the shrew stomping. So there's a lot of synergy to be had to go to the Bree-land garden and do those other quests and potentially do the shrew stomping quest. The big gotcha, however, is that you can't just go and pick up the quest and start stomping shrews at any given time, because there is a 9-minute cycle to the shrew stomping. And here is a diagram which hopefully illustrates the cycle. It progresses in a clockwise fashion, and in the lower right-hand vertex of the triangle here, hopefully you can see an image of a hobbit facing off against a shrew. That represents the shrew stomping phase. That's a 3-minute phase. Then, after that, there's an idle phase where there's nothing to do except wait for the next phase. So that's 3 minutes. Then you go into, at the top vertex there, what I call the ready phase. And you see the quest ring over the NPC's head signifies that that's the only phase in which you can pick up a shrew stomping quest. And then that lasts 3 minutes, and then you go to the shrew stomping phase again. So depending on when you show up in the Bree-land garden, you may have to wait several minutes before you can actually stomp shrews, which of course then completely wrecks your time efficiency. So that's why there's an element of luck here. I mean, this cycle is deterministic. However, unless you have some way of carefully tracking it from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, then essentially from the player standpoint, it's random where you're going to show up here. Now, I did try to min-max this, and I had big flowcharts and decision matrices and spreadsheets and tables and things. And I was going to present that. And then I realized it's just way too complicated. It's too much work. It's too sweaty. So instead, what I'm going to do for this run is I'm going to present 11 different quests as possibilities to run for the 10 quests daily. And then you pick 10 of those. Now, which means that you skip one. The one that you skip may be the shrew stomping one if you arrive there and the phasing isn't conducive to running the shrew stomping quest. But there are other quests in this 11 quest set that you may wish to skip instead. I have a couple of the fence jumping quests in Brockenborings. Not the north or south ones, but the ones across the middle, the one that has the lax timer and the one that has a more strict timer. So if you don't like fence jumping, and a lot of people don't, or they're just not good at it, they haven't practiced it, or they have lag, so that makes it difficult, then you may want to skip the one with the shorter timer and just do the one with the longer timer, which you can just go very slowly and carefully. There are a couple of horse races in this 11 quest set. The Bree one and the Shire one. The Shire one is a little bit more difficult because that first water jump, you kind of have to jump a little bit to the right on the boards before you jump over the gap. But then when you actually jump over the gap, you have to twist a little bit left. So it's a right and then a left, and it can sometimes be a little tricky. Another quest that I include in this 11 quest set is the one that's right in front of my character right now from Avery Crabapple, and it's called A Fistful of Flowers. And the way A Fistful of Flowers works is you pick up the quest. As soon as you pick it up, a 1 hour countdown timer starts. And during that timer, it enables you to collect flowers from 3 different places in Eriador. An area that's west of Bree, an area that's a little bit north and west of Calandim, and an area that's somewhat north of Michel Delving. And those flowers then are barter currency, and then you can use the barter currency for these things here, like war steed appearances, an actual mount, these gift boxes, and so on. But if all you care about is to use A Fistful of Flowers as a way to count against your 10 quest daily, then you just pick it up and let the timer expire, and then it auto-completes, and then you get credit for one of the quests towards your 10 quest daily. So a lot of people may not like those mechanics because it means you do have to remember to go back after an hour has elapsed and log into that character if you're not still logged into them, and then go in and have it autocomplete and then to count towards the daily. Now, one thing that I do to help me remember to log back into my character is I use this plugin, the Reminders plugin, and when I pick up A Fistful of Flowers, I set a 1 hour timer, and I'm not going to do it right now. I'm just going to demonstrate how you would set that, so that as the timer is ticking down in game, the Reminders timer is also ticking down, and at the same time, the timer for the quest expires, and an alert comes up from Reminders saying, "Hey, you need to log into this particular character in order to get the autocomplete for the daily," and then go up to Sergeant Tom and hand him the daily. If you miss handing it in on one day, and that's your 10th quest that you were relying on to finish the daily, then what happens is you log in the next day, it auto-completes as soon as you log in. Your daily is now done for the day, but unfortunately, it's done for the following day. So you just missed your daily for the previous day. So that's kind of a bad thing, and that has happened to me a couple times. But fortunately, there's enough slack in the festival schedule that you can afford to lose a day here or there. All right, now getting back to the Shrew-stomping, before I start this run, I do want to show a plugin config that I have set up for the Shrew-stomping. And again, this goes back to my min-maxing of the Shrew-stomping, and you may or may not care about this, but I have set up one timer, and I'll open it up here, one timer, a 3-minute timer, and it triggers on this event broadcast that says a game of Stompashrew is about to begin in Bree-land. And once that happens, a 3-minute timer appears in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Now you can customize the appearance of that timer and move it around and so on. But for me, I have it at the default setting, the upper left-hand part of the screen. In addition to the 3-minute timer, I then have a 10-second timer. Now, this one isn't an event broadcast. It's spoken by an NPC in the garden. It's the NPC that's furthest away from the entrance. And one of the problems with that is that that vocalization, if you will, has only a 50-meter radius, apparently. If you're more than 50 meters away, then you don't see it. So if you're talking to the NPCs that are right near the entrance, you're not going to see this. If you're talking to the NPCs to pick up the Shrew-stomping quest, however, then you should be close enough to see it. So you may or may not see this 10-second one or the 1-minute one. The 1-minute one is basically the same thing from the same NPC with the same radius. And you may or may not see it, depending on how close you are. The reason I run through this plugin config now, rather than when I'm in the garden, is that I may be under some time pressure when I'm in the garden, and therefore, I don't want to waste too much time showing the plugin config. But I can revisit it later if I have enough time when I'm in the garden. So let me start the run, and I usually start in the Boar fountain area, and I pick up A Fistful of Flowers. Now let me start a little stopwatch timer in the lower right-hand corner there. And I'm going to use a plus 78% mount. I'm not going to use my war steed. Again, I usually operate on a fairly strict set of constraints, and one of them is to not use a war steed. I also don't use any buffs. I don't use anything that is class-specific or race-specific. And, of course, this is entirely solo. So after I pick up A Fistful of Flowers, then I go up to the Bree Festival grounds, through the free portal at the Prancing Pony, pick up the daily from Sergeant Tom, and now I'm going to do a quest here, which is the Pretty Parched Party-goers. Say that 3 times fast. And that involves picking up some wine and taking it to various groups of party-goers. The first one here is party-goers that are up here near the free thing. Now, you'll notice that sometimes there is just one party-goer, and then more will phase in, and sometimes there's half a dozen or more. And that can be a little bit disconcerting and disorienting if you're looking for a tent that has multiple partygoers. You don't always get multiple partygoers. The number seems to vary somewhat. So it's a good idea, and there again, there's only one partygoer showing right now, and then a bunch more phase in. I don't know whether that's a lag thing or just it's deliberately designed that way to throw you off, but anyhow, don't rely on the fact that there will be multiple partygoers under the tent. There could be just one, and there again, I arrive, and then more partygoers phase in. So that's a little quirk of that event. Once you do the 3rd tent, then the quest progresses. You can go back to the NPC, Errand, Bullrush here, and turn it in. All right, so now from there, nearby is the horse race NPC. So let me do the horse race. And there isn't much to say about the horse race that hasn't already been said by others. I'm not going to try and give you all the tips as I'm going around here, but one thing I will say is that if you miss one of the water jumps, it's not that hard to recover from that. But if you miss 2 water jumps, then everything else about your run basically needs to be perfect in order to recover from that. So you need to time your jumps properly. You need to not swing too far to the left or the right. Everything else needs to be perfect, but you can recover from 2 failed water jumps. And I had a little bit of a lag there and almost missed that jump, but I made it. So yeah, Don't despair. If you miss your second water jump, then just focus and make sure you don't waste any microseconds of time, and you can recover from it. And that's really the only tip I'm going to give for the horse race. All right, so now we're at 2 of 10. Let's head over to the maze. I'm not sure that I mentioned it earlier, but I do include 2 of the maze quests as part of this 11 quest set, but the 2 that I've picked are the ones that require you only to go through the maze from one side to the other, and without any kind of competition or randomness involved. So they are the 2 easiest maze quests. Now, I'm running a plugin called Festival Buddy 2, and when Festival Buddy 2 sees that you're starting one of these maze quests, it puts up an in-game map. This is good if you are still working on memorizing the map. For various technical reasons, there isn't a good way to be able to put your location on this map due to limitations of the Lua plugin API. But nevertheless, just having the map and seeing the route is helpful. I've memorized the route, so I don't really need the map, but I just wanted to have it pop up so you can see what it looks like, and maybe you would find it helpful. All right, so I finished the first one. The first one, all it does is it has you go through that route with a 1-minute timer. You have to beat the 1-minute timer, and if you've memorized the route, that's pretty easy to do, even without any kind of buffs or class skills or racial skills or anything like that. Right, this one, the second one, you take the same route, but instead you don't get a timer initially. This one is called the Green Challenge, and I think you need a certain amount of rep with the in-league, or at least that you have finished the in-league initiation in order to be able to get that quest. Or maybe it's the Ale Association, I don't remember. But it's linked to the Booze faction somehow. Yeah, I think it's in league that you get. Yeah, well, one of the rewards is an in-league reward, so I'm guessing it's an in-league quest. I'm not sure. It doesn't. Yeah, you get reputation with the in-league without hurting your Ale Association reputation. So this is one of those asymmetric quests where you can gain reputation with one without losing reputation with the other. So once you pick up that keg, then you get drunk and you get slowed, but you get a fairly generous timer. I think it's 2.5 minutes. Wasn't it 2.5 minutes? And so as long as you've memorized the route, that is also fairly easy to get to the exit. It's annoying to be slowed and drunk like that, but it's not that difficult. All right, so let's go around and hand that in. Now, once I hand this in, I'll be done with this area of Eriador until I hand in the wrapper. Right, and I'll be off to Brockenborings. During the Spring Festival, generally for the characters that are running Spring Festival, I set their milestone to Brockenborings. But there are other options. One of the options that's available to anyone who has swift travel is to head over to that free port from the festival grounds to West Bree Stablemaster, and then take the swift travel route to Mitchell Delving, and from there you can take the swift travel route to Brockenborings. You'll note that if you use a milestone, you're closer to the fence jumping area than you are if you arrive at the Stablemaster. Another way, there are a number of different ways. If you have a way to get to Mitchell Delving, to port directly to Mitchell Delving, either as a racial or a class skill or because you bought that particular travel skill from the store, then you can go straight to Mitchell Delving and then swift travel to Brock and Borings. Another way is if you've done some questing in Yonder Shire, likely you will have been able to barter for the port to No Bottle. And so you can port to No Bottle and take a single swift travel to Brock and Borings from there. So once in Brock and Borings, I'm going to do these fence jumping quests. And again, these are the easiest ones, the ones that are along the middle, not the north or south ones. One of them has a short timer and the other one has a longer timer. Now you are drunk. Whoops, fell off the fence. See, I'm actually not that good at parkour. I have a fair amount of practice with this, but I do occasionally fail. So that's another reason why I didn't try to min-max this to the ultimate extent, because sometimes I fail on these fence jumping quests. All right, so I'm done with that. I find that the drunkenness effect is even worse if it's dark, and it's also worse if it's raining, because I have both the post-processing for the drunkenness and precipitation effects enabled, because I like the immersion. But if 2 or 3 of those things are active at the same time, drunkenness, darkness, and precipitation, then it can be very challenging to do that, because there's just a lot going on your screen. And I find that the precipitation effects in particular have a tendency to slow down my client as well. At this point, we're 6 of 10 and we're 10 minutes in, so we're doing pretty well. Now we get to the Dwelan part. When I swift travel there, usually I interrupt the swift travel to save myself a little time getting to the garden. Let's go into the garden and see what phase we're in. Now you see we're in the ready phase. But also, interestingly, the 3-minute warning just went off. So in my min-maxing mode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and only collect the flowers. I mean, I might as well. I've got not almost 3 minutes to kill. Well, a little less than 2.5. As you can see the timer up here, that's gibberish. The 3-minute timer's gone off. So it's telling me I've got another 2 minutes and change to go. That's more than enough time to collect these flowers. And I should even be able to plant some or all of the flowers in the planters that are around the arena where the shrews get stomped. So that's one of the branches of the decision tree. If you arrive in the zone and you see that announcement, then you have enough time to collect flowers. But what you don't have is you don't have enough time to do that and also collect all the things for the other quest, the so-called boot quest. So I'll do that. And now that I have the flowers, I'll head back to the garden. So again, this is one of the branches of a decision tree if you're trying to min-max. Alternately, you could have just simply waited around for the Shrew-stomping to start. I'm going to pick up that other quest. And I'm also going to have to deal with the fact that my quest log is full. So for Shrew-stomping, I need to pick up the quest, and I also need to pick up the boots. Now, because I'm running the Festival Buddy 2 plugin, well, I may as well go into the arena at this point, because I can plant the flowers and the flower pots while I'm down in the arena. But what I was starting to say was, because I'm running Festival Buddy 2, the plugin, it automatically populates a quick slot. If you weren't running that plugin, then you would have to move the boots to a quick slot, an open quick slot. So this is very convenient. So now that the 10-second timer is done, let's get started here. And I do have a somewhat unorthodox way of doing this. I just keep my mouse pointer over the boot icon and I spam it regardless of what the cooldown is. And then I use my WASD keys and my tab key in order to target the shrews and move around. It may not be the most efficient way, it's just the way that I've found to be most comfortable. It seems to be relatively effective, although I think it kind of falls apart if there's a lot of competition. And you see I'm a little bit off my stride here. One minute has passed and I'm only up to 7, so I'm not doing as well as I normally do. But that's, I'm going to chalk that up mostly to competition. I just need one more shrew. All right. One more shrew. Whoops, I missed that one. How did I miss that one? There we go. That's the last shrew. All right, now that I'm done, I can just step out of the arena and finish with my flower pots. So there goes the enormous shrew. I ignore the enormous shrew for purposes of doing this daily. But I'm glad someone got it. So finish up the flower pots. All right, so now also let me turn in the Shrew-stomping quest. Now I still have to finish up the boot quest. This quest is, the full name is Boot Demand, Boot Supply, and it has you collect 3 different types of materials: flax, wood, and twine. The flax and wood is up here, more or less in the same areas where the flowers are, although it's a little, most of the materials are a little bit south of where the flowers are. So here's some cherry wood branches. And there's some flax over there. Note that at this point, I'm not under any kind of time pressure. I've already done the stomping of the shrews, and so I don't care about the cycles of the shrew stomping anymore. It's irrelevant. So I'm only focused on picking up these materials. 1 flax, 2 flax. That may not have been the most efficient route for getting the flax, but that's okay. Once I'm finished with the flax and the wood up here, then I have to go down to Calandim in order to pick up the twine. Now, in years past, I completely eliminated the boot quest as part of my 10 quest daily, because the amount of time it would take to go down to Calandim, collect the twine, and then ride back on your mount to Bree-land, even on a war steed, was just too much. It would add too much time, and so this was, in my opinion, an inefficient quest. And so I just eliminated it from my 10 quest daily. However, something interesting happened in update 33 the release of Yonder Shire, they not only added a bunch of swift travel routes within the Shire, but they also added a swift travel route from Michel Delving to Bree-land. So there was already a swift travel route from here, Calandim, to Michel Delving. So now you can do a double swift travel to get back from Calandim to Bree-land by way of Michel Delving. So that chopped some time out of the execution, the runtime of this quest, and therefore it's I considered it to be one of the options for doing as part of the 10 quests daily. So from here you go to Michel Delving, and from Michel Delving, then you go directly to Bree-land using the new-ish route. I say new-ish, it's April of 2022 is when that route was added, so it's almost 2 years old as of the recording of this video. Now, in this case, you don't interrupt the swift travel because you need to talk to an NPC that's north of the stablemaster. You need to talk to Delura. Hand in some things to him, and then go back to the garden. So it would have been better if I could have done the flower placement quest and the boot quest in parallel with each other, but that combination of quests is over 5.5 minutes. So depending on where you are in the Shrew-stomping cycle, that may or may not cause you to miss that Shrew-stomping cycle and then have to wait until the other one, which would be 9 minutes. So again, what I'm showing here is a much more relaxed and casual version. I do have a whole bunch of flowcharts and things if one wanted to min-max this. I'm not trying to be condescending or anything, but the amount of time and effort it would take to explain all of that and I don't think very many people would be interested in it. So I'm presenting a more simplified version. If you want the more complex version, just drop me a line and I can lay it out all for you. Now, at this point, if I had done all of those quests and then waited for the Fistful of Flowers to autocomplete, I would be done with my daily. But as I said, I'm going to present 11 quests. The 11th here is the Shire horse race. And the way I get to that, the fastest way I've found to get to that is to go to the Michel Delving via swift travel. From there, head towards the homesteads, the Shire homesteads. If you want to save a little time, interrupt that swift travel during the fade-in phase so that you're slightly closer to where the horse races are, and then just ride down to the horse race area. Now, as I mentioned previously, the Shire horse race is a little trickier than the Bree one, but it's also been around forever. So hopefully you have some practice. That first jump coming up shortly, you have to jump a little bit to the right and then over to the left in order to hit that board on the far side of the gap. As you come around here, you can jump over the forks of these caravans if you want. I haven't really analyzed whether that's faster. Over here, you don't have to jump over that broken log there. You can just go around it as long as you make the gate. That's all that's actually necessary. And then this jump is somewhat easier than the first one. And we're done with the run. So that shows all 11 quests, but one of them hasn't completed yet. The Fistful of Flowers is still counting down. Well, let me stop my timer here. So that was about 23.5 minutes. To be fair, I did spend some of that time discussing things and doing things slower than I normally would if I were just solo and not recording anything. So maybe I could shave a little time. If I did my ultimate min-maxing thing for the Shrew-stomping, maybe I would have done things slightly differently. Who knows? I did fall off the fence once, and that cost some time. So it's certainly possible to optimize that. I have done the run in a little over 18 minutes before, when everything is going my way. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this clip by porting to Bree, using my reputation port here. Actually, no, I think this is a racial port. But regardless, going to go to Bree, and I'm also going to go up to Sergeant Tom so that I'm positioned to turn in the daily once that 1 hour timer expires. As if I had skipped one of those quests. And I'm going to log out. And I'll record another clip and show you that shortly. Okay, I'm back, and it suddenly dawned on me that although I showed how one would set a 1 hour timer in the reminders plugin, I never actually set the timer. I went through the motions of creating a timer, but I never actually did. So mea culpa, just as a remedial step here. If you wanted to set a 1 hour timer, you would just go to the time column here in reminders, and that brings up a dialog. And then you go to the hour, you would say delay from now, which I think is the default. And then you would do the up arrow here to increment that to 1 hour, and then say okay, and immediately it starts counting down. However, I went off and did the daily on another character, and I set his reminder properly, and that whole hour expired. So logically, I know that since that whole hour expired, and I did that after I left this character, that 1 hour would have expired for this character. So I don't really need this timer. I know that the timer has expired. I just do want to show something here. I may have mentioned it earlier, but if the timer for A Fistful of Flowers expires, if it expires while you're logged off, and then you log in and it auto-completes, you get 2 sets of spring leaves. See, if you scroll up here, you normally don't notice it because there's usually a whole bunch of other stuff that comes up in your chat box when you log in. But if you scroll up here, you see you get a double helping of spring leaves. You get 4 spring leaves in total. If the timer for A Fistful of Flowers expires while you're logged in, you only get 2 spring leaves. So if you want to chisel out a couple of extra spring leaves for whatever reason, one way to do that is when you're doing A Fistful of Flowers, just make sure you're logged out when the timer expires. Even if it means you have to log out for a few minutes, let it expire, and then log back in again, it'll get you 2 extra leaves. So in any case, it auto-completed, which if I had done 9 quests previously, that means that would have been my 10th quest, which completes the daily wrapper, which means I come to Sergeant Tom and I say, bam. I'm finished with my daily. So that's how you wrap things up. Again, just to repeat, some people may not like the fact that they have to log back into a character in order to get the auto completion, and therefore they may choose to skip A Fistful of Flowers. But if you're willing to, or if you have the discipline, or if you can use the reminders plugin or some way to ensure that you log back in and get the auto completion, it is a very playtime efficient way to get that quest. So just to recap the whole video here, this is the the less sweaty version. So instead of just pounding away at 10 specific quests in a specific order, trying to get the best time possible, I'm offering 11 quests. You can choose to skip one of them. You may choose to skip the Shrew-stomping one because you hit the garden at just not the right phase of the cycle in the 9-minute Shrew-stomping cycle. So you may choose to skip that one, or you may choose to skip some other quest because you just don't like it or you're not good at it, like a fence jumping quest, a horse race quest, or A Fistful of Flowers because you don't like the aspect of having to log back in again. So my time here wasn't stellar. It was well over 24 minutes if you add everything up, including this little wrap up here for the daily. But it is still pretty efficient, especially if you compare it to doing a bunch of quests in the maze, where a lot of them are very time consuming. There's a chance you'll get lost unless you have it completely memorized. And also some of the quests, like the Tweens quest, the Dire Beer quest, and the chickens, you have competition from other players. So hopefully some folks find it valuable. I'm sorry I got this out so late, but mostly that's because I was wrestling with my min-maxing and finally gave up. But that's what the video presents, and hopefully you found it useful. And I will catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.